Welcome back to another community made podcast episode. This is where I help all women heal from sexual abuse. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about the truth of feeling like your old self again. Now, if you really miss the old version of you, say you look at pictures and it brings up so much pain and sadness for you, or you think back to who you were before this actually happened and you think like, I was so happy and friendly and trusting, and I really miss that version of me. I wish I could just tap into that and just be that version of me again. This is going to be for you. Number one, I resonate with this so much. There's so many things about our past version of us that we really wish that we could tap into and just have again and just have that experience. Now, I understand that if you experience this from childhood, you may not necessarily experience that because you may not at all remember who you were prior to this point. But you might really start to notice this as you begin to heal. You really miss the previous version of you. That was really my experience because I was so numb to everything. And like, I wish I knew how to explain how I was prior to healing, but because I was just so numb and thinking that it didn't affect me, whether it was in my childhood or 19 and 26 when I experienced this, I really didn't think it affected me, but I was so numb. Like I didn't know that it was affecting me until I started healing. And then I was like, whoa, I really like miss that old version of me. And the reason why I really miss that old version of me, number one, is because I really didn't realize I needed to grieve that past version of me, which is something that we talked about in last week's episode. But also because when I began healing, I went from being like hyper independent and like, I was really a bitch. And then I swung the other way to being a doormat. And I was just like, whoa, being a bitch is way better than being a doormat. So I really had to like really find a balance, like this harmony of kind of bringing them together and just being like assertive and not necessarily a bitch and being like really hostile and things like that. So there really was this version of me that I had to learn how to miss. But, I'm digressing from the topic that we're talking about today. And so I just kind of want you to be aware if you missed that episode and you don't really know where to begin with this process, you probably really want to listen to last week's episode about grieving the old version of yourself. The reason why we're talking about this, of course, is because it has a lot to do with the upcoming workshop, Becoming Her, Feeling Like You Again After Sexual Assault. So if you really want to dive into this and go deeper into this, there's going to be a space for that to do inside the workshop. The workshop also comes with, we're going to do learning for 30 minutes. We're going to do journaling session for about 30 minutes, and we're going to do meditation for about 30 minutes. And then the last 30 minutes, we are going to go into support where you get to be coached. If you feel safe and comfortable with that, we don't record that part of it because I want to keep your safety in mind as we do these things, but it's one of the benefits of showing up live. So if you're interested, the link down below is going to be for you. But let's talk about the truth of feeling like the old version of you again. The truth is that you're never going to be the old version of you. I know that really sucks, and you probably already consciously know this, but sometimes it helps to hear this from another person. When you were before the abuse, you were a very different person. And because you had this experience that is life altering and really makes an impact on you emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, because it changes that much about you, you become a different version regardless of whether or not you miss the old version of you, or regardless of whether or not you grieve the old version of you, regardless of whether or not you decide to heal, you become somebody else. And the reason why is because it's so life altering and it imprints within you, changes your chemistry, changes your energy. It does all of these things. So no matter what, you become a different version of you. And this version of you, especially if you're in the thick of it and it was recently, you might not, you might be hyper vigilant. You might not be able to sleep. You might be having triggers and flashbacks and not being able to deal with anything. You might not trust anybody. You might not feel like you're ever happy. You might feel like you're wearing a mask all the time, that you have to put on a strong face to get through things. You might feel like you're disconnected from your body. You're numb all the time. You might really feel all of those things. And naturally, you miss the old version of you, whether or not you like truly liked her, loved her, whatever the case may be. So the truth is, oh, I'm getting a notification on my calendar. The truth is that you just change, and it is really going to be a process to aligning to the version of you that you really want to be. So the truth is that number one, you're not going to be who you were prior to this. And I know that that really sucks. I know that you don't want to hear that, but someone has to tell you the truth, because there's no getting back to normal, right? I know that we believed that for a really long time, but we didn't ever really get back to normal. Okay, there's going to be a new normal, right? So I want you to realize that. The second thing is that you are, or you must grieve the old version of you. If you want to really stop or slow down the missing of the old version of you, or the pain that the old version of you brings up, maybe when you look at pictures, you must grieve the old version of you. Now, how do you grieve the old version of you? Again, we talked about this inside last week's episode. I'm going to dive deeper into it as we go into the workshop that is on October 21st. But also, one of the best ways to really let go and heal, of course, is to invest in a one-to-one program. I have my Unbound Freedom program, which is 12 weeks long, and it is just absolutely life-changing with incredible results for my clients. I mean, it's just incredible. So again, you really want to grieve this version of you. So when you are grieving this version of you, after a while per se, depending on your journey, depending on what your circumstances is and things like that. This is why sometimes it's so hard to do like generalized videos, because it's going to be so specific to each survivor on what this looks like, how you're operating, right? Because I was always really like numb to everything. I was climbing the corporate ladder. I did all those things. So like, there wasn't an option for me to like really have time to like grieve and change and do all the, I just don't even know how to explain my past version like anymore at all. It was a little bit easier to talk about who I was years ago, but like I really like don't recognize who I was anymore. So it's neither here nor there. That's what's going to happen. It happens like even me, like 2 years ago, I don't recognize her anymore. Like as you heal, as you go through this journey, you don't recognize the past versions of yourself anymore. No matter what, even if you feel like you're stuck, like you just don't recognize yourself anymore. And that's okay. That's part of the process. So in order for you to really become the best version of yourself, or the version of you that you really want to become, it is going to be tapped into your habits and your routines and your goals. But also you got to figure out what it is that this version of you looks like, feels like, what it is that she does for work. What is she like, where, what does she do? All of these things. And actually I have and I'll link this. I didn't even think about this until I'm talking about this with you. I have like a little guide called Visualization for Manifestation. This will help you tap into that version of you so you can start aligning with that version of you. Again, I'll link it. I think it's like $7. And so that's going to be really helpful for you to really discover who you are. Because, and again, we're going to talk about this inside the workshop, but I don't mind like spilling it all. Really, you really do get to integrate, which means that the things about this past version of you, the before version of you that you absolutely loved, you can take all of those things and bring them with her and bring them with you into the future. Okay. You're really allowed to do that. We think, and I know it feels like this because it fucking does, is that you feel like you lose everything after this experience. You lose who you are. You lose your sense of safety. You lose your trust. You lose connection to your body. You lose your confidence. You feel like your soul's been taken from you. Like you feel like everything has been taken from you. The thing is that as you heal, as you grieve, as you really move on and let go, you realize that not everything was taken from you, because there are truly things that cannot be taken from you. And so once you start to realize that and you're on that journey, it becomes so much easier for you to realize, I really liked that I was happy, like, no matter what. That might not be the same now, but I did really like that happy-go-lucky girl. And I'm just going to take this with me and we're going to bring it here so that you can still continue to be like that. Now, again, it's going to, the more that you're able to grieve, the more that you heal, the more that you really work on resetting and rewiring your nervous system and things like that, the easier this process is going to be. And again, you really need to know and understand and discover who you want this next version of you to be. And you may not know, and that's completely okay. You may not be ready to be in that space to begin in the alignment. Again, this is why sometimes it gets so hard to do some of these videos, because I want to give you like generalized information so that you can begin the journey, so that you can start taking the steps forward. But again, it's going to look different for everybody. And so this is, it's up to you. I want you to trust yourself and really know and gauge where you're at. And then that's going to be able to help you decide. And one of the best ways to really align with yourself and really come into acceptance of the truth of feeling like you again is to, of course, invest in a program. And I do have spaces available. Yes, of course. And of course, the workshop is going to help you so much with really becoming her and feeling like you again. You can check that out down in the description, but this is what I have for you, and I will see you later. Bye.